the idea of God is, in some sense, the evolution of an illusion. On the other hand, 1. The story of this evolution itself points to the existence of something you can meaningfully call divinity. And 2. The illusion, in the course of evolving, has gotten streamlined in a way that moved it closer to plausibility. In both of these senses, the illusion has gotten less and less illusory. Does that make sense? Probably not. I hope it will by the end of the book. For now, I should just concede that the kind of God that remains plausible after all this streamlining is not the kind of God that most religious believers currently have in mind. There are 2 other things that I hope will make a new kind of sense by the end of this book, and both are aspects of the current world situation. One is what some people call a clash of civilizations, the tension between the Judeo-Christian West and the Muslim world as conspicuously manifested on September 11, 2001. Ever since that day, people have been wondering how, if at all, the world's Abrahamic religions can get along with one another, as globalization forces them into closer and closer contact. Well, history is full of civilizations clashing, and for that matter of civilizations not clashing, and the story of the role played by religious ideas, fanning the flames or dampening the flames, and often changing in the process, is instructive. I think it tells us what we can do to make the current clash more likely to have a happy ending. The second aspect of the current world situation I'll address is another kind of clash, the much-discussed clash between science and religion. Like the first kind of clash, this one has a long and instructive history. It can be traced at least as far back as ancient Babylon, where eclipses that had long been attributed to restless and malignant supernatural beings were suddenly found to occur at predictable intervals, predictable enough to make you wonder whether restless and malignant supernatural beings were really the problem. There have been many such unsettling, from religion's point of view, discoveries since then. But always some notion of the divine has survived the encounter with science. The notion has had to change, but that's no indictment of religion. After all, science has changed relentlessly, revising if not discarding old theories, and none of us think of that as an indictment of science. On the contrary, we think this ongoing adaptation is carrying science closer to the truth. Maybe the same thing is happening to religion. Maybe, in the end, a mercilessly scientific account of our predicament, such as the account that got me denounced from the pulpit of my mother's church, is actually compatible with a truly religious worldview, and is part of the process that refines a religious worldview, moving it closer to truth. These 2 big clash questions can be put into one sentence. Can religions in the modern world reconcile themselves to one another? And can they reconcile themselves to science? I think their history points to affirmative answers. What would religions look like after such an adaptation? The question is surprisingly easy to answer, at least in broad outline. First, they'll have to address the challenges to human psychological well-being that are posed by the modern world. Otherwise, they won't win acceptance. Second, they'll have to highlight some higher purpose, some kind of larger point or pattern that we can use to help us orient our daily lives, recognize good and bad, and make sense of joy and suffering alike. Otherwise, they won't be religions, at least not in the sense that I mean the word religion. Now for the really hard questions. How will religions manage these feats? Assuming they do, and if they don't, then all of us, believers, agnostics, and atheists alike, may be in big trouble. How will religions adapt to science and to one another? What would a religion well suited to an age of advanced science and rapid globalization look like? What kind of purpose would it point to? What kind of orientation would it provide? Is there an intellectually honest worldview that truly qualifies as religious and can, amid the chaos of the current world, provide personal guidance and comfort, and maybe even make the world less chaotic?